and we are going to program in a language called Python. You're going to find this a little bit strange. It's something new to you. Until now you've probably used Google Slides or PowerPoint presentation or Microsoft Word or Google Docs, but what you've essentially been doing is using the computer. Now you're going to be doing something which is totally different. You're going to start creating things for other people to use, and to do that we need to program, and we are going to program in a very simple language called Python. And when I say simple, I'm not thinking that it's easy for you to learn. It is quite difficult at times, but it's a nice beginner language which will get you into the swing of things. So we're going to start, and my screen may be completely different to yours, particularly if you're in the school. Windows might be different, or you might be on a Mac. It doesn't matter which version you're on. We start it pretty much the same way. If we go down to the Start button, and although we are programming in Python, you might be tempted to write the word Python, which is okay. What comes up is something called idle, and that's what we really need, idle. So you can either type Python or you can type idle, and it will come up. So I'm going to click on this, and a window should pop up on the screen. There we go. Now, strangely, this is not where we're going to program. This is called a shell, and at the top of the screen we can see where it says Python 2.7.6 shell. This is a very useful item, but it's not where we're going to program. We can program in it, but it gets a little bit difficult. So where we're going to go first, and pretty much you should always do this, is choose File, New File, or press Ctrl and N, as you can see there, and you get another window. So now we've got two windows. Got one called Python 2.7.6 shell and one called Untitled. I'm not going to go into the differences between the two at the moment, only to say that really you should be programming in this one. One thing that I will say is, if you are making a program, and I'm going to type a line of programming that you will type by the end of this lesson in the shell. So I'm going to say print hello, and that is a command to the computer which just prints the word hello. So when I press enter, there we go, it prints hello. Notice that print was in orange, hello was between speech marks, and it was green. And when we pressed enter, the result was just hello. There was no print hello, it just did exactly what it said between the two speech marks. Now, if I'm in the shell programming, I've got a little bit of a problem, and you can try this out yourself. If I'd have made a mistake, let's say I wanted to print hello world, I cannot go back. I can click where I want to be, but when I try to edit it and change the line, it will not allow me to. So I'm typing like crazy and nothing is happening. So although the shell is good, it's not where we're going to do our work. If you've got this window open, you can close the shell, just to make sure. So we're going to do exactly the same as we did in the shell. We're going to type the word print, which goes orange, and then in speech marks, hello. Now, there's my very first program. We've seen what it will do. It will print hello in blue. So I'm going to run my program, because that's what you do with programs. When you start anything up, click any of these icons, you're actually running the program. So I'm going to run this program. So I'm going to choose from the menu. I've got several menu options here: File, Edit, Format, Run, Options, Windows, Help. We will use quite a few of these, and I'll explain what they do in due course. But the one that I want now is Run. So if I click on Run, I've got, well, it's not easy. I've got three options. I've got Python shell. I don't want to do that. If I chose Python shell, what it would do is just put that shell back on the screen. So there we go. I've chosen it. It just puts the shell back on the screen. As I said, we didn't need it, so I'm going to close that again. If I choose Run, I could do check module. We're not going to be using check module at all during the entire course. The one that I want is this one down here, run module. And what I want you to notice, it's got F5 at the side. Now on your keyboard you will have a button along the top row marked F5. They go F1, F2, F3 and so on all the way up to F12. If you press F5, it's the same as choosing run and run module. The reason is that you don't need to take your fingers off the keyboards and look for the mouse. You can just press a button and it will work. So I'm going to do exactly that now. I'm going to click back on the screen and I'm going to press F5, which obviously you won't see, and it will say, oh, you need to save your program before it will work. Now a lot of our programming is going to be understanding the messages that we get in the boxes. At the moment it's just asking us to save, and we can understand this. Source must be saved. Source means your program must be saved. OK to save, so it's asking me to click this button here. However, a lot of the message that you're going to get in Windows and boxes are going to be a little bit strange. The words are going to be strange. You're not going to understand them, and that is one of your tasks as a programmer, is to try to understand what these messages mean. So I'm going to click OK. And immediately I have a problem, and you really need to pay attention to this problem. So the problem is where it is trying to save your work, and at the top we can see local disk Python 27. This part may change depending on whether you're on your home computer, school computer or anywhere else. What is important is this, Python 27. We do not and don't want to save inside this folder. If we do, we could probably make a mistake and call one of our programs the same as one that already exists, and that will stop Python from working. Plus it's not good anyway to save your work in this folder. You're better off if you have a folder of your own to save your work in. So if you see Python 27 here, then what you need to do is look on the left hand side and find the word documents. Click on documents. If you have the ability to create a new folder, that's okay, you can create a new folder. I'm going to press that button. If you haven't got new folder or can't see how to create a new folder, don't worry, then you just need to give your file a name and save it. We can deal with that later, but I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it my Python files. Now notice I've used spaces, my space Python space files. When we actually create our file name, I don't want you to use spaces. You can, but I don't want you to use them. It's bad practice to do that. So there we go, I've created a folder, my Python files. I'm going to double click on it and go inside it. We shouldn't see anything. Now I have to give my program a name, and really we want to call it something useful so that we understand what we've done. I'm going to call this my first program. Notice I haven't used any spaces, and what I've done as well is I've capitalized every new word apart from the first one, and there we go, I've got my first program, and I'm going to click save. I've actually made a mistake. I don't want to be doing this, so we're going to come back and we're going to change this in a minute, but I'm going to do this now so that you can see what happens. Notice that print hello is print in orange, hello in green. When I click save, see what happens. Okay, the shell comes up, the program works, it's printed hello as I wanted, but when I close it, back in my program, print and hello are now all in black text. I've lost my colour. Now, colour is very important in Python because it's going to help you see where you've made mistakes. It's not going to point them out completely, but it's going to give you a little hint as to where you've made mistakes. And this is my first one. If I see all my text in black, then I've made a mistake. My program name is up here, my first program, but I didn't save it correctly. What I should have done, and I'm going to do it now, File, Save As, it'll take me to the same folder. Notice down here it says Python files, star.py or star.py, that means Python for any sort of computer, and this one is Python for Windows. We're going to stick with the first one, .py. If I put that on the end, .py, and then click save, all my colour returns. So there's my first program. I made the computer respond to what I want. In other words, I've told it what to do, given it an instruction to print, and what to print between double speech marks, the word that I want to appear on the screen. And notice that unlike the shell, I can come back here and I can edit the word. So if I wanted to do hello world, I can actually type world in now. Now I've changed my program just a little bit. I've added something to it, and notice here I've got a small star, and at the end here I've got a small star called the asterisk, saying that my program has changed. And as my program has changed, if I now press F5, it will not run, but it will ask me to save it first because it's changed. So I'm pressing F5. There we go. If I just click OK, now unlike last time where it came up with a window saying where do you want to save it, because we've saved it in a location, it's not going to ask us again. It's just going to save it and then run the program. And there we go. The shell pops up. Now the shell is where the answer to whatever we're programming appears. Okay, so that's what the shell is for. It's for seeing the results of your program. So there's our first program, hello world. So I'm going to leave it to you. We can change things. So if I close the shell again and go back to my main program, you can add as many. So if I choose to press enter, you can add as many statements as you like. Print how are you? Print. Now notice they're in speech marks, and I've just put two speech marks together, and I'm going to cursor back and I'm going to write in between. I am fine. That's just something that I tend to do, is put the speech marks in first, because if you miss a speech mark off the end, you are going to have a mistake. First of all, I'm going to run this program. Notice that it got the star, so I need to save it first. So pressing F5 and click OK, and there you go. I've got all the instructions that I've given it. Hello world, how are you? I am fine. Now I'm going to make one or two mistakes just to help you out in case you have a problem with your own coding. So the first mistake that I'm going to make is I'm going to take one of the speech marks off the end. So this time it's not I am fine between two sets of speech marks, it's just between one. So if I save my program and try and run it, click OK, I get an error message, and wow, that error message doesn't mean a great deal. There's an error in your program, EOL, while scanning string literal. In English it means you missed a quote mark off the end. Notice in Python it is trying to tell you, it's highlighted it in red saying, I think the error is around about here. You need to look very carefully at your program, see what you've done wrong. So if I click OK, and if I put the speech mark back in, now we're all good to go. And when I press OK again, there you go, my program works. So let's make another mistake that you might make. I'm going to go to the print statement and I'm going to capitalize the P. A couple of things that I want you to notice. This time it's in black, it's not in orange. So there's my first clue that I've actually made a mistake. So if I save my program and try to run it, it now comes up with another box which says there is an error in your program, invalid syntax. For invalid syntax at the moment, when you see that, it means you've made a typing mistake. You've spelt something incorrectly, not between the quote marks. It doesn't matter how you spell things between the quote marks. It's these words here which mean something to Python. We call them keywords. And it's saying that you've made a spelling mistake on one of the keywords. And we know that's true because we actually did it. And there's a couple of clues. So if I click OK, let me go through the clues. Well, let me close the shell first. And the clue is I've got a red marker here saying it's on this line somewhere, and the print is in black, so that's giving me a clue that I've spelt it incorrectly. So when I put that right, it goes back to orange, print I am fine, run my program again, There we go, we are absolutely fine. So as I said, a lot of the work that you're going to be doing in Python is understanding what those complicated messages mean and trying to work out where you've made an error. Another important piece is down here where it says LN3. That means my cursor, where it's flashing, is on line 3, and col1 means it's in the first column. So if I click here between the O and W in how, it's now telling me I'm on line 2, I'm in column 9. So when you get an error message, sometimes it will tell you where the error message is, or where the error has occurred, or where it thinks it's occurred, and it will give you a line number so that you can try and find it. So there's our first program. So what I would like you to do is to practice these by typing print, having some speech marks, and any words that you want in between the speech marks. Maybe you want to do a rhyme, maybe you want to do your favourite song or a verse, but practice, have a go. It's practice that makes perfect with Python. So up to you now.